The dimly lit basement was cold, damp, and reeked of alcohol. The young boy, no more than 10 years old, carefully measured out a precise dose of the sedative into the actor's drink. He had been planning this for months, ever since he discovered the incriminating video of his older sister and the actor in a hotel room. The girl he had once looked up to, the girl he had idolized, was now reduced to a mere object of desire for this stranger. It had taken everything inside of him not to vomit when he had seen the video. The actor, a once famous leading man, now in his dotage, down on his luck, and desperate for work, had no idea what was about to happen. The boy, clad in a cheap, ill-fitting mask, watched as the drug took effect, the man's eyes growing heavy, his breath becoming shallow. He couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction as he bound the actor's hands and feet, strapping him tightly to a wooden chair. The boy carefully placed a large knife on the cold concrete floor, its blade glinting dully in the dim light. He stood before the helpless actor, his own heart pounding in his ears. "You took something that was pure and innocent," he hissed, his voice muffled by the mask, "and you ruined it. You turned her into your plaything, your object of desire. Well, I'm here to make you pay." The actor, still groggy from the drug, opened his eyes and glared at the boy. "You little shit," he slurred. "What did you do? What did you give me?" The boy said nothing, simply leaning in closer, the actor's scent of cologne filling his nostrils. He felt a strange mix of hatred and arousal course through his veins. "I brought you here," the boy continued, his voice trembling slightly, "to make you pay for what you did to her. To my sister." The actor's eyes widened in recognition, and then narrowed with anger. "You have no idea what you're doing." The boy smiled, a chilling expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, but I do," he said, moving around behind the actor. "You see, I've been planning this for a long time. I've been watching you, watching what you do to her. And I can't unsee that anymore." He reached out and grabbed the knife, lifting it high above his head. The actor struggled against his bonds, but it was futile. There was a moment of silence, as if time itself had stopped. The boy's heart pounded in his ears, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He felt a strange sense of detachment from his body, as if he were watching everything unfold from somewhere else. And then, in a swift and brutal motion, he brought the knife down, aiming for the actor's chest. There was a sickening thud as the blade pierced the man's flesh, blood spurting out in an arc across the basement floor. The actor let out a guttural scream, his body convulsing as more blood poured from the wound. The boy stood over him, the knife still embedded in the actor's chest, watching as the life slowly drained from his eyes. For a moment, he felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. It was as if he had finally purged himself of the rage and hurt that had consumed him. And then, as if waking from a dream, he realized what he had done. He had taken a life. He had become the monster that he had always feared. The boy stumbled backwards, the knife clattering to the floor. He felt dizzy, lightheaded. His stomach churned, and he thought he might vomit. He turned and fled the basement, not stopping until he reached the safety of his room. There, he collapsed onto his bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Outside, the world continued on as if nothing had happened. The film industry reeled from the news of the actor's death, and the older sister, still clinging to her innocence, made tearful pleas for the truth on every talk show she could find. But no one suspected the boy. No one knew the truth. And for the rest of his life, he would carry the weight of his actions with him, like an invisible albatross around his neck. He couldn't care less, he got a bright of happiness afterwards. He knew that it was wrong, but he felt like he did the right thing. It was a messed up feeling, but it was there. He thought about it every day, reliving the moment over and over again in his head. He knew that he should have called the police, that he should have done something else, but he couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. The boy tried to move on with his life, but he couldn't shake the memory of that night. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the actor's face contorted in pain and terror. He wondered if the older sister ever found out the truth, if she ever got the closure she deserved. As the years passed, he managed to build a new life for himself, finding solace in the company of friends and a new passion for photography. He even found love, but he could never fully open up to her about what he had done. The weight of his secret kept him isolated, always looking over his shoulder, waiting for the day when the truth would inevitably come out. He wondered if the older sister had moved on, if she had found happiness in her life. But he knew that he could never undo what he had done. The memory of that night haunted him, a specter that refused to be exorcised. But he finally got over it. After seeing his sister go through a has-been phase, he realizes that he is not alone in this. That everyone has their own demons, their own pain and guilt that they carry around. It was a strange sort of comfort, knowing that they shared something in common. They didn't talk about it much, but they understood each other. The boy grew up, became a man. He never forgot what he had done, but he learned to live with it. He made amends where he could, volunteering at a local youth center, trying to steer other lost souls away from the dark paths he had once tread. They had both moved on, found peace in their own ways. Sometimes, when he was out walking, he would see her across the street, her face lit up with a smile. And in those moments, he felt a sense of connection, a bond that went beyond words. He often wondered what had become of the older sister, the one who had been so brave and resilient. Had she found her way back into the spotlight? Had she found love and acceptance? He hoped so, for her sake. The boy's life was far from perfect, but he had learned to find joy in the small things. He knew that he would carry the weight of his past with him forever, but he had also learned that it didn't have to define him. He could choose how to move forward, how to shape his own story. And for that, he was grateful. The years passed, and the boy became an old man, gray-haired and wrinkled. He looked back on his life with a mix of sadness and contentment. He had made mistakes, yes, but he had also learned from them. He had loved and been loved in return. He had lived a life that, despite its flaws, was rich with meaning and purpose.